Kathy here from Kathy's Creations. Today is the clue 1 of the Sparkle and Shine. I am so happy this has arrived. So this is the beginning of the new cotton cuts for the year 2021. And I have the small, and my colors are Topaz, I think is how you pronounce it. So let's get started. Here are my colors. This is the color sheet. So you want to hold on to this if this is your first time. Don't lose this sheet because this tells you what your colors are. And when they give the directions, they'll say fabric A, B, C, D, E, or F, and you'll need to know which ones they are. So let me show you my setup here. And in case you do not know how that works, and I don't say this each and every time, so I'm going to mention it now. Just like the bottom of the sheet says, post your completed coloring sheet using the hashtag CCColorChallenge for a chance to win a Chroma Petite Pop. Entries are due by the 15th of each month. So all you do is color this, and the back gives you an idea. This is what the block looks like, and this is what it would be like if you colored the outside and then if you colored the inside. So it's got two different, if you guys haven't seen this yet. Now go ahead and over there and join the Cotton Cuts Facebook group and you'll see these. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to show you my colors. So this is the colors for this first month, and it is showing me my fabric A, and you can just barely make out it's got more than just the white on that. It's just a real light pastel. This is fabric C, and this is fabric D. And this month we got a little flashlight. That's what this is, and it's on your keychain. So you get a little keychain. This way when you walk to the door at night, you can literally put your light up against the keyhole, and then it puts a light on it. You're just pushing this handle in right here. That's all there is to it. Okay, it looks just like that with their little logo. Okay, so each month you will get directions that look like this. It'll come automatically in your packet. It tells you what all the different fabrics are. You can verify and check it. If you don't get what you're supposed to, you let them know. They'll send it to you. And then it has the directions on how to put everything together. It talks about the 1/4 inch seam. It's really, really good for beginners if you've never done this before. So you want to keep your paperwork. So to begin with, we are going to make half square triangles, D and A. We're going to make 4 of them. And we're also going to need to use our 2 small rectangles. So we will make 2 units. And let's go ahead and chain stitch and make all 4 of these blocks first. Now you want to be extra, extra careful because we will be sewing on the bias. I will not pin mine, but if you are new to this and you feel like you need to pin, you can pin. If you feel like you can't sew on the bias without it stretching, then what you want to do is you want to get yourself some stabilizer. Stabilizer can be anywhere between a piece of paper or another piece of fabric or tearaway, anything that you feel comfortable with. I guess I ought to put some thread in my machine or I'm not going anywhere because I don't have any thread in there. Nor do I have bobbin, speaking of it. So let me stop real quick and fix that. I'm so anxious to get this started. I'm excited. Alrighty, so I decided to go ahead and use the same color that I used in my last cotton cuts. Uh-oh. That's not very good, is it? Let's see if I can smooth that down a little bit. Uh-oh, my fabric went down in there. Well, let's see what we got here. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. I guess I need to get my fabric a little bit closer to me here. Well, so let me tell you, I started a new book. I'm not going to tell you the title yet. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. I have not completed the story. It's a different story than the last story that I had, that I told you about. But it has got me to thinking. And I'm not quite sure. I mean, I've already been so opinionated with this book, it's crazy. But anyway, of course, you know, now remember, when you read a book, you base it on your own life. You know, what you know, what you've learned so far in your life. And so you do like a comparison, you know. So you question stuff like, well, would I have been like that? Or, I mean, I don't think I would have been like that. Or, you know, that kind of sort of thing. But it starts out, and the lady who is in the story, her name is Tabitha. She has 2 children, a daughter and a son. Her son is about 12. Her daughter, I can't recall. I think she's a little bit younger. And they live in, I think they live in Manhattan, I think it was. I could be wrong. I'll have to relook at that to see. But anyway, so she's got an apartment. And she graduated college. Her husband graduated college. And I'm going to tell you right now, you guys, I don't know anything about sports, so I don't know team names. I don't even keep that stuff in my mind. I apologize for all the people that really enjoy football and like my granddaughter, but I just can't maintain it. I mean, I don't know what it is. There's something about it that I just don't care for. But anyway, her husband used to drag her to the, I call it a pub. It's where they celebrate with the games and stuff. You go down there and everybody's they watch the great big huge screen TV, and you know, they have somebody caters and they have all the food and whatnot there. Let me stop while I iron these open real quick. All right, now you'll have 4 of these done and you'll have them ironed open. Do not forget that you want to press your seams first. If you don't know what that means, you lay your fabric like this on the iron and you hold your iron down on it. And then when you go to open it, they're asking us to iron the fabric to D. So what you do is you lay it down like this on your machine, your ironing board, and then slowly press on this. Do not push it with your iron because you will stretch this if you do. So you just want to slowly lay it on like this and then press it downward, and then it's open. And then when you flip it over, your seam will be sewn towards the dark side, which is our D. Now we're going to put this together, and what it's telling us to do is put our D in the top left hand corner, and then take our small rectangle and lay it next to it, which is A, and then the D at the top and A, and we're going to make 2 identical ones like that. So we'll go ahead and so the beginning of our story, or I'm going to probably jump around in our story, but what has happened is, I'm getting this from what I've read so far, is that her husband has decided to leave her. Now, they took money out of their savings, and he broke away from his law firm and decided to open up his own practice, and it sounds like he was working with the underdogs to help them out. And his business takes him everywhere, so he was constantly gone for weekends at a time. It went from weekends to weeks to months. Well, this last time, he has been gone for a few weeks now. And I don't know, because it's kind of sort of like a hidden thing, but he told her not to tell anybody something. And the something that I think that he told her not to tell is that he's away on business and that he's not coming back. I guess that's how you say it. I'm not quite sure because it's such a mystery yet. We're not full, we don't have all the whole story. It's a lot of secrets and whatnot. Well, she is, which I can relate to in a little bit, she does a lot of notes. So she takes and writes notes. But at first I'm thinking, okay, well, that's what I do to remember things. But that's not what she's writing notes about. So what she's doing is she is so desperate. Now, this woman does not work. Although she has a college degree, she never went out and worked a job. So I guess he told her she didn't need to. I don't know if he told her, I don't think he told her not to get a job. I just think that she's never had a job. And of course, that's what the kids know, that she's never had a job. Well, anyway, so what's happened is, let me make sure I'm sewing these right, because I really don't want to mess them up like I did the last one. Alrighty, so her notes that she's writing is because she's literally taking stuff. And when I say taking stuff, I mean things like food. So she's taking food, and I thought that she was like shoplifting taking food, but that's not what is going on. So, for example, she went, she has a girlfriend, so her girlfriend took her out to lunch. Well, she took like the condiments that come to the table, like your little things of butter and all that. But she's keeping track of it, although it's not really stealing, because I don't know. I mean, nowadays I would think that they would throw that stuff away if it was on the table. I don't know what they used to do a long time ago before our situation today. They may have just put it back in a container or something like that. I mean, I'm not quite sure. I've never done, of all the jobs I've had, they have not, they haven't been food service. They've been people service, nursing homes, things like that. But anyway, so I wasn't quite sure what they did with it, but she wrote down on a piece of paper, and she's got different pieces of paper with different headings on them, that she's going to pay that back because she's considered that as stealing. Which, like I said, I don't believe that's stealing, because I think they would throw that away. Well, anyway, so whenever she would go to something, out to eat with her girlfriend, or something that she was invited to or she went to, she would take Ziploc bags and she would literally take the food home for the children. Now, I know for a fact I just sewed this one wrong. And why did I sew that wrong? Oh my goodness, it's turned around right there. Okay, so I got to fix that real quick. Okay, here's how easy I got that twisted. It should have been turned this direction, and I turned it that direction. So that's why I've got to take this one out. But anyway, let me go ahead and tell you the story while I'm taking this out. It won't take but a minute. So she's got this big long list of stuff, but not only does she have that list going on, but she has a list about things where she thinks things went wrong in her marriage that she didn't recognize and notice. And so she's writing like one-word phrases and things like that down, which I'm not quite sure, and I don't understand the purpose of it. But anyway, so like I said, it's been been weeks, I'm sorry. But the point is, they don't have any food in the house. She has literally rationed the food. Now, her kids, as the time goes on, they're just now they're just now figuring it out. To me, I would think that I would have figured it out sooner if I was a child. I mean, I think today's kids would have noticed it a lot sooner. Hold on one second. Okay, so we will have two that look like this, and you're going to call them 1A, and it's 2 pieces, and now we're going to work on the next one. Alrighty, I got ahead of myself. I did not put the last piece on the bottom. Goodness gracious. Alrighty, so the notes that she was keeping, she kept them in a drawer hidden in the bedroom. Uh-oh, what's going on here? Oh, I'm not quite sure. Something's going on. Alright, this is like the second time it wants to bunch when it comes off the end. So I'm not going to start on the end, I'm going off of it. And I don't feel like this fabric is any different than any other fabric. I'm still using a 12-inch needle, 2.5-inch length, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But anyway, let me go ahead and tell you a little bit more about the story. So anyway, the first thing that I realized based on this story is this woman has literally no support group whatsoever, nor even anyone that she can talk to, for fear of whatever, we don't know now, whatever her husband said to her that she can't mention, she literally has not mentioned. Not even in the story has she mentioned it. So I'm not quite sure what it is, which totally puts us at a loss because we can't figure it out ourselves. I mean, I don't know what would have happened that he told her no matter what she couldn't say anything. And she has gone out and she's tried to get a job. She's gone to a couple of different interviews, but nobody's ever called her back. Now, she has a whole lot of really nice clothes to wear, so it's not as if she doesn't have anything to wear at an interview. Like I said, I want to think she's like in a, well, since I've never had a lot of money, I'm just guessing at it, but a high-rise type of apartment. And the reason I say that is there is a doorman. They come up. You can't just come into the building. You've got to actually be introduced. They buzz you before anybody would come up. So I'm not quite sure, but all of this is still being paid for by her husband. Now, I don't believe her credit cards are being paid by her husband. That part's not being done. But as far as the rent on this place that they're living at, that is being taken care of. Her children have been in private schools from the very beginning. That is still continuing, so she hasn't had to put them in a public school. Her health insurance is being paid for. She just has to come up with the copay. Her biggest challenge is that she doesn't have any food because the food has run out. And so she's taking food from wherever she can get it. Well, anyway, she went, and it's all sneaky, you know, and she's trying to get around things. For example, her daughter had some kind of function at school, and of course she was at any other time she would have had no problem going out and buying whatever was necessary for this function, and it was some kind of food function. And so she was asked to bring I believe the cheese and the crackers. The lady that was that got it going, she told her what all to bring. Well, she said when she was telling the story, she said, well, I would have never thought to not drop $70 to $150 buying, you know, for these kids and everything. But now she didn't have it. I mean, she didn't have a credit card to charge it on, because her credit card, I don't believe that it has much money on it, and I don't think that it's being paid. She has no way to get a hold of her husband. She has tried to text him. She has tried to email him. It's as if the phone is dead, because on your telephones it would normally say whether it was delivered or not, and it's not saying that on her phone or her email. She's getting no replies back. She has, right now, she's got an incident going on with her daughter. Her daughter come home and her leg was hurting, and she thought that maybe she sprained it, but her daughter is telling her that she didn't do anything to her leg to cause it to hurt. Well, they put ice pack on it, and she kept her off of it. She kept her home, that kind of thing. And her daughter, I wish I could remember how old her daughter was, but her daughter's been keeping it from her that her leg was really hurting her quite a bit. And she went to something with her girlfriend. I think her girlfriend had a birthday party, and she went with her. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. I think her daughter's like 8. Well, she went to the thing, and then she came home. And when she came home, her mom, Rachel, asked her how, Rachel's her friend. Tabitha asked her how it was, and she said, fine, it was fine. And then she went to the bedroom. Well, then she gets a phone call from this girl's mother, and the mother's upset and irate and telling her she doesn't know what she's doing. Why hasn't she taken care of her? And she goes, I don't understand what you mean. She said she had fun at the party, and she goes, is that what she told you? And of course she's trying to think, did she really tell me she had fun at the party? Because she couldn't remember. She goes, yeah, she did. And she goes, well, I'm telling you, she could not even participate. Her leg hurt her so bad. And her mother goes, what? And she goes, that's right. She couldn't even participate. The very first slide she went down, as soon as she hit the water, she cried out in pain. She said, my husband rented I think it's called a gondolin, those little things that floats in the water, and you, I think you paddle or something. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. She said her husband did that, and then that's what they did for the rest of the party. And then she had let her in downstairs, and her daughter just come on upstairs by herself. Hold on a sec. Okay, now we should have 2 that look like this, and they are labeled 1A. Now on to the next one. Alrighty, so now we're going to make 3 flying geese. That's what this unit will become once we have sewn them together. And you want to be really, really careful because of that bias. You're going to have the bias on this side as well as that side. So let's take our time. Okay, 3 times is a charm. We're going to start over because I did it again. Made another mistake. So, we're going to start on this again. Same one. I guess you guys are probably screaming into the computer. Screaming into the video. Oh my God, you're doing it wrong again. I guess that's my day to do it wrong. Sometimes that happens. Nothing goes right. That's why they invented the seam ripper.
Is that your best friend today?
Apparently that's my best friend today. Maybe I'm not supposed to be telling this story. Maybe that's the problem. I shouldn't be telling this story, huh? Now I'm flipping this over and finishing off where I could not start because it won't let me start at the end where the half square triangles are. I do not know for the life of me why it won't, but I'm not going to fight it today. Because I've already taken it out twice and I'm not going to be doing it again. I can make enough mistakes on my own without having to do that. This piece here is frayed all over the dickens here. Okay, not sure why that's happening either. All right, now let me get it ironed open. Okay, 3 is a charm. That's the 3rd time I've done this. So there we go. 1A, and finally it's correct.
Woohoo!
Now on to the flying geese. Okay, flying geese, here we come. All righty, here we go. Let's see. See, it's doing the same thing. It's, oh my gosh. Okay, break time. Okay, so I stopped, I cleaned out the machine, I switched the foot, and did the first one, and it worked. Let's see if the rest will work. I guess my machine was just too dirty. You know, I never keep track of when I clean that thing out. And it might, well, heavens to Betsy. My last video, I probably should have done it. It was making noises then, and that's usually what it does, is make a noise. Alright, let's try this. Alright. Uh-oh, she not walking, she not talking, she not moving. What's going on here? Did it get stuck and not want to move? Nope, it's not moving. Well, I guess that wasn't the problem. I mean, it's clean, but that wasn't the problem. I don't know what the problem was. So let me take this out. Well, I put a little spray starch on the end of that. It seems to help it, but I can't believe that it needs spray starch on it. This fabric's pretty stiff. It's not even flimsy. But if that's what it's going to take and it needs that starch, I guess that's what it's going to have to do. I mean, I haven't used anything different in the way of needles or thread. Today it's just going to be peculiar.
Are you filming?
Yes, I am filming.
Oh. I thought you were talking to yourself.
No, I'm not talking to myself.
Okay.
Alright, let's see if we can get this on here. Huh. I guess I might have to do that to the other edges too, just because. Otherwise, I'm going to have a mess. Let me get these ironed open. Okay, I went ahead and I put starch just at the tip of this, so that when it comes down, I did it on both ends. So hopefully it will come down and cross over that correctly. But I just don't understand, why does it need starch? Which doesn't make a bit of difference. It doesn't make any sense. But you know what? If that's what it needs to get it done, then that's what it needs to get it done. It's just being a little bit cantankerous today. Alright, let's get these ironed open. Okay, when all is said and done, through all the frustration and everything else, here we have 3 flying geese. Woohoo! So, I'm not quite sure what's going on and why it had to have starch, but you know what? If it has to have starch, it has to have starch. That's all there is to it. Now I'm going to attach each one of these to one of the long, which we should have 3 left, these long rectangles. The goose goes on the left, the rectangle goes on the right. So let's do that. Okay. Now I'm trying to think, where did I leave off on my story? Oh, gosh. Okay, so let me just jump in there and tell you something real quick about it. I told you what was going on about how she couldn't tell anybody. She was writing all those little notes or keeping track of her lists. I guess you can call them lists, since they were different pages with a whole bunch of list stuff. But she was, it's not that she was strict, but she was very caring about her kids. So she used to walk them to school, and then she was getting to the point where she was letting them walk themselves. And the little boy liked the freedom. He was actually thinking about running away. His father, on that last night that, which she didn't know it was the last night, but the last night that he was home before he hasn't showed back up, he had an envelope and a letter for his son that he left. And his son had it in his backpack, and it was $50 and a note about how he was going to be really successful at his bar mitzvah. And that when it came time to do the volunteer work, he wanted him to volunteer with this specific company that he actually had dealt with as a lawyer. His business had. He said they were real good, and to talk to the lady named Nancy, that she would help him out. So that's what he ended up doing. It came time to go to see the rabbi, and of course her husband wasn't back. She canceled it once, and then she felt like she couldn't cancel it again. And so the two of them went in there, and he goes, well, is your husband going to be here any minute? And she goes, well, no, he's away on an extended business trip. He goes, okay, well, then we'll start up. So they got to talking and everything, and while she's sitting there, her son is answering all the questions, and all she could think about. Now, she was no, she wasn't brought up. She is Jewish, but her household won out over her, whatever her mother's, I can't think what her mother was. I can't remember now. Well, whatever her mother's religion was, that's what more or less won over. So she didn't learn anything about the Jewish tradition or anything, although her husband wanted her son to learn, and she had no problem with that. Well, her son just was answering all the questions, and she was like at a total loss. She says, thank goodness I didn't have to answer any questions. Of course, when it's all over and said and done with, the rabbi turns to her and says, you got any questions? And she's thinking, I wouldn't even know what to ask. So she didn't say anything. She goes, nope, I guess everything's good. And he goes, all right, well then, we'll meet back here on such and such a date, and fill in your husband and all that. So that was the end of that thing. Hey, do not itch on this chair, buddy. I had to get my cat out of here.
Your cat?
The cat.
My cat.
Anyway,
He's a butt.
so then they went ahead and went home. They went their first time to this, I'm going to call it I was going to call it a soup kitchen, but I'm not quite sure it's really a soup kitchen. She didn't feel like the people that were there, well, they all had their own stories. I don't know if it was a soup kitchen or not, but they were doing the serving of the food. They were making it and serving it. And so she ended up helping out in the kitchen, which she didn't have a problem with. At one time, I guess she had tried to have her own catering business, and she had started it out of the house. But anyway, so that all worked out really well. Well, one day he skipped school, and so he took his $50 and he was going to find his way to this place, but he couldn't find it. He did not know the address. He took a couple buses. He ended up back at this cafe thing that his dad had ended up going to. And hold on one second. So you should have 3 of these when you're done. And they are labeled 1B. Let me show them to you laid out here side by side. There we go. That's what they should look like. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. And if you're interested in learning any more about the story, just go ahead and tell me. What I'll do is, I hate to wait till I get another one of these and pick up on the story, because by then I'll have read another book. So maybe I'll just go ahead and talk. I'll continue this book that I'm reading, but I haven't finished it yet, in the very next video that I make. And I'm not quite sure which one that's going to be right offhand. But I'll go ahead and I'll just continue the story about Tabitha, her daughter her name was Fern, and she called her Fernie Bernie. And her son's name was, for the life of me, I can't think of what her son's name was.
I do know.
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, I'll tell you more about the story. Her husband, who has popped up out of the picture, disappeared out of the picture, his name was Stuart. And she does end up meeting this guy at that cafe that I told you about, that they all go to the ball game and all that I didn't know there at the very beginning. And she meets a guy named Toby. But I'm going to turn the camera around real quick. Hold on one sec. Alrighty, let me just tell you a little bit and backtrack on this story so you have a better idea of the lists and all that. So, now her son's name was Levi. She called him Monkey. That's the reason I could not remember what his name was, because she always referred to him as Monkey in the book. But anyway, so in the beginning of the book, and I just now thought about this, I went ahead and I reread just a little bit to fill you in on a little bit extra stuff. So, in the very beginning, they were going, I don't know where they were going. Somehow, I don't know if they were on their way to work, on their way to school or what, but they saw a little kitten. And when breakfast came, they got up, they came down, or actually Fern came down to the kitchen. She asked for a everything bagel, and of course they didn't have it. The list that I was referring to at the very beginning, when it started with the list that she was writing on a list, she had written down $2 for basil, $2 for toilet paper, and she didn't write down what the bread was, but she went ahead and put the total at the bottom as $7. Well, her cousin had took her to lunch, and while she was at lunch, she swiped a roll of toilet paper, put it in her purse. On the way home, it's like a little, what do you call them? I don't think they have them around here. Like a little sidewalk type thing where they put, it's a store that you walk into, but on the outside, they'll have little stands that'll have like potted plants, herbs. It'll have like maybe some bananas or some fruit or something like that sitting on the outside, and then you would pick it up and then you'd go in and purchase it with whatever else you bought. Well, that's how she ended up getting the basil, because there was a plant out there, so she just picked some leaves off of it. And then there was actually a loaf of bread in a bag, as if somebody, like they put it out there and somebody was coming to get it, and she took it. So she didn't go in that store. She just grabbed those things and went home with them. So when her daughter asked for the bagel, she said, no, we don't have any. We have toast today. So she had sliced the bread up. And then, like I had told you, she had already previously took those little butter packets, that you get at, for example, Panera. If you ask for butter, they give you those little bitty packets and they put them in your bag. Well, that's what she had from that luncheon with her cousin. So she had a little bit of butter to put on. And then she has some kind of balsamic vinegar, I think, and I don't know if it was a flavor of one, but she had a bottle and there was still some left over, and that's what Fran liked when she had her bread, and so she drizzled that on it for her. So then she asked her where her brother was, and she made the comment that he was still sleeping, and that's when Fran ran out of the kitchen real quick to get him, but she ran into him in the hallway, and he was headed to the bathroom. And she was going on an interview that morning, so it was really important that she get the kids to school. So when he went into the bathroom, right before he shut the door, she looked in the bathroom and she looked at the fixture. And in her mind, she thought, how much food could I buy with that fixture that's in the bathroom? And so that kind of stuff runs through her mind throughout the book about different things. How much would something buy, because like I said, she's down to nothing. Anyway, the very first job, she's been on some other job interviews. She was comparing them. But this one that she went to, now, I wasn't quite sure. It leads us to believe that it's like a receptionist job, okay? So she's answering the phone, she's setting up appointments and that kind of thing, which she said she was good at. And then when she gets there, the place is in chaos. And it's a whole bunch of people sitting around. So she's thinking, is this like a doctor's office? She couldn't quite figure out all these people sitting around what they were doing, okay? And there was no receptionist or anybody in the room but all these people. And so all of a sudden this guy whizzed in real quick and he goes, well, I'm glad you're here. You're a little bit early, but that's okay. And she goes, well, I didn't see a receptionist, so I couldn't check in. And he goes, that's all right. And so she says, because she's trying to think, she didn't even introduce herself. He just automatically assumed he knew who she was. He goes, well, look, change of plans. And he handed her a folder. He says, go to this address and help this lady. Her son has called umpteen times and she needs somebody with her, because one time she was sitting on the floor. She thought she was a teenager. Her boyfriend had left her and she was depressed. And she's not safe. And I can't recall how old she said she was, but she's an elderly woman. So she thinks whatever. So she takes the folder and she leaves. And then she's thinking, Jesus, I can't go to this person's house. I don't know who this person is. This isn't the kind of job that I tried to apply for. So she goes ahead and she's walking down the road. And then she, what did she do? She did something. I can't remember. Oh, she hadn't had her coffee yet. And she has nicotine withdrawals. She actually counted her Advil, so she could figure out how many days she had of Advil if she didn't get her coffee. And so she had been making her coffee weak. And when I say weak, I mean W-E-A-K, weak. And she was straining her used coffee grounds through a sock And then that's what she was drinking for her coffee so that she wouldn't get the withdrawal of the caffeine. So she goes ahead and goes into, and I don't know if it's a Starbucks or what it is, I can't recall, and asks for a coffee, a small coffee, and they said something like, it was either $1.50 or $2 something, okay? And she goes, she remembered in her head, somebody made a comment to her one time, ask for another price and see if they say no, because if you don't ask, you're never gonna know. She goes, well, how about no refill and $1.50 for it? And then the lady said, oh no, she said 75 cents, and the lady goes, yeah, sure, there's nobody here, I'll do it for you. So she got her coffee fixed. But when she sat down to drink her coffee, she realized she still had that folder in her hand. So she started thumbing through the folder, reading it and everything, and read exactly what the guy had told her about the lady sitting on the floor thinking she was 19. So then she thought, well, what the heck, it's right here in my neighborhood. I'll just go over there and you know, pop in and see how she is. So she goes over, and it's like an apartment complex type thing. She walks in, and the guy at the desk, she's thinking, I'm so out of place. But she just walks over there to him and says, yeah, I'm here to see so-and-so. And he goes, yeah, go ahead and take the elevator up. She always leaves her door open, her door unlocked. And she goes to herself, she's thinking, she leaves her door unlocked. That's not pretty safe. That's not very safe at all. So she goes into this woman's house. And the lady calls her in. And she thinks, okay, well, she's not on the floor. And the lady says, well, come on, I'm in the kitchen cooking. So she goes ahead and goes in the kitchen. The lady's got an apron on. She's cooking just like normal, you know. Okay, so they start having a conversation. And she says, I see that she goes, I'm fairly new. And she goes, yeah, I see that the agency sent you over. That's fine. So they start chit-chatting, and she goes, so what are you doing? And she goes, well, I just made some muffins. And she did. She made them fine. They smelt real good and everything. She goes, let's play a game. This is what the older woman said. And she goes, oh gosh, I'm not very good at games at all. And she goes, like Monopoly. And then the lady's thinking, oh my gosh, I can't. She says, I can't do Monopoly. Well, anyway, the lady, she says, go ahead and sit down. So she turns to go into the dining room, and there on the table, there's a little tea set for two. So it's like really nice china and everything. And she brings the muffins in, and I think they were cherry muffins, I think. And she goes, well, aren't these your favorite or something like that? And she was literally, now she hasn't eaten since the day before. She didn't get her breakfast. She got that little bit of coffee, and she's literally drooling. She is so hungry. So she goes ahead and she eats one, and then they start to play Monopoly, and she looks at the board, and she sees all the little figures, you know, the little puppy dog and the iron and all the different things. And then she looks at the money, and she thinks, well, that money looks kind of different. So now, I'm trying to think what the lady's name is that she went to her house. For the life of me, I can't think of her name. But the lady says, I'll dole out the money. And she goes, okay. So she picks up the money. It's a $500 bill. And she looks at it and she goes, is this a real $500 bill? Are we playing with real money? That's what she's thinking in her head. So she's looking at it. She's turning it over. She goes, does it even exist? She goes, I don't even know if a $500 bill exists. So she sets it down on the table, and she goes, I need to use the facilities. The little lady goes, okay, we're right down the hallway. She goes down there and she Googles it, and come to find out, it was real money. This woman had $500, $100, $50, $20. All this money set instead of Monopoly money, which was like weird. Now they're playing their game, and Tabitha's thinking, there's got to be cameras in this house, and it's rigged to see if I'll steal this money or I'll take anything from this lady. She was like nervous. She was so nervous, and she said, she didn't end up winning. The other lady, I believe, won. The older woman. And she goes, well, I gotta go. And she goes, well, wait, you need to take these muffins with you. She goes, oh no, I couldn't do that. And she goes, oh yes, you can. She goes, I don't even like cherry muffins. I just made them for you for when you come over. And she goes, Are you sure? And she goes, yes, I'm positive. She goes, okay. So she takes all the muffins. Well, on her way out, she goes ahead, she eats the one muffin. She was so tempted to take a roll of toilet paper. But in her mind, she's thinking she's being taped, okay? That sounded like so much of a setup. It was crazy. But anyway, other than that, the woman was acting normal, okay? So she goes ahead, she leaves, and she goes, so I'll see you next time. And she goes, yeah, maybe, because she didn't want to make any promises, because here she just showed up at this woman's house. She figures she's not getting paid for it, and the lady lived right in the area, so it's not like she went out of her way to go to the lady's house. So then she goes ahead, goes about her business and everything. Well, then as the story goes on, these lists that she's making, some of these lists, they're every time she takes food or staples, toilet paper, whatever, and these all have different headings. Like one had groceries, one had like when it involves her husband or whatever. But anyway, she's got a whole bunch of loose leaf papers that she's got stuck in her drawer. But anyway, so let me get real quick to show you how she meets Toby. So when the kids were at school, it used to be that, like I said, her husband used to haul her to this, I don't want to call it a restaurant because it's not a restaurant, it's like a bar where you meet and you watch the TV and all that. And it's really, really crowded when it comes to game time. I cannot remember the name of what their team is because remember, I don't do sports, so I have no clue. I'd have to look back there and write notes, but I don't have time right now. So anyway, maybe I'll do it before I talk to you next time about it. So this place is fairly crowded. She sees lots and lots of food, and all she can think about is, I need to get over there before anybody notices me, and I need to get some of that food and get it out of here. So she brought the Ziploc bags, okay, and she brought a big enough purse to carry it all in. She made sure she always did that whenever she went out. So anyway, she works her way over to the table, and all of a sudden they started doing the theme song. I guess it was the theme song. It's the song for whatever the team was. And so she got to singing it, and she thought, wow, this really feels good. I haven't really felt this good about anything in a long, long time. It felt good to sing. So then when they got done, they all did the cheer, and they were screaming and hollering, and she was surprised she even remembered the words to the song. So she makes herself over there to the table, and she's looking at it, and all of a sudden this guy approaches her and starts talking to her. So they're just having a plain old conversation and everything, and then she says that she needed to go. Well, she says, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom. So she goes in the bathroom. She's thinking, gosh, I hope when I come out, he's not at the table, because she can't take food if somebody's standing there at the table, they'll see her. So then the guy was away from the table. So she gets herself they had stuffed bell peppers. So she puts them in a Ziploc bag real quick and puts them in her purse. And then they get to talking and everything. And then she gets out of there because somebody approached him and started talking to him or something. So she got herself out of there, and he said, well, before she left, he goes, well, I'll see you next time for the big game. And she goes, yeah, probably. And she gets outside and she thinks, I don't know why the heck I told him that. I don't even want anybody to know me or anything. So then that's how she ends up meeting this guy. She sees him each time that she goes there because now she realized there's all this free food. Now, remember, I told you about her son and how he went and ended up spending the $50. He had skipped school and he was trying to go to this, I can't remember what, I should have looked that up too. That, I don't know if it's a homeless shelter or whatever it is, but I think it's through the church. And this guy Toby now, when she meets him after this next big game, it's all over. He says, well, I got to go home and walk my dog because my dog sitter can't make it. And I got a new puppy and he's good for like 4 hours, but then I got to get home. And so she goes, okay, fine. He goes, but let's go over to such and such a place. And he named it. And she's thinking, gosh, I know where that's at. But she hadn't frequented it. Okay. So they go over there and he goes, yeah, all this bread and all this stuff that they've got sitting up here on this counter, this is all free. And she thought, free food. Oh my gosh, how come I didn't know about this? Here I could have been eating. And it's a, oh, what was it? It was like a, uh-oh, I made a noise. It was like a pastry place. So there was like a whole bunch of different pastries and bread and all kinds of stuff. So he just grabs a bag and starts filling up. He goes, grab a bag, fill it up. And she's thinking, is he as desperate as I am that he needs to be stealing food too? She goes, that would be really ironic. So she fills her bag up and she goes, well, what are we going to do with all this food? But the thing is that when she walked in that restaurant with that guy, her son was sitting at a table and he saw her and he thought, what is my mom doing with that guy? So he turns his back real quick so that she won't see him, okay? Because he's been there all day long. He was just getting ready to leave when he went to get up, and that's when he saw his mom come in with Toby. So he sits there, and then they leave, and then he's thinking to himself, I wonder if my dad knows this. So the kid goes ahead and leaves and goes home, and Toby says to him, we're going to go feed the homeless. And she said, the homeless? And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, it's never a better feeling than to give somebody in need something that they need. So she goes, okay. So then they went along the street, and he goes, but we always ask them first. We don't just assume they want something and, you don't just give it to them. And she goes, I understand. They went ahead, they went up to each individual and gave it to it. So his whole bag was gone, and all she could think of was that she didn't want to part with anything in her bag. And he goes, now it's your turn. So she goes ahead and does it. She gets down to one last baguette loaf. And he goes, I tell you what, he goes, that is some really good bread. Why don't you keep it and take it home? And then she goes, okay, I think I'll do that. And so then they parted ways, and he says, I'll see you. And she goes, okay, I'll see you. And then they left. And so that's as far as I got in the book, which is quite interesting because now I have no clue what this little boy, Levi, is going to do. If he's going to go home and confront his mother or what. But I can't recall if I told you that when he ran out of money, he emailed his dad back. Well, not back, but he emailed his dad. And because he tried to call him and the call wouldn't go through, so he thought, well, I'll email my dad. So he emailed him and told him that he wanted to let him know that he didn't have any more money, but that he did not spend any of that money on video games or anything like that. Nothing foolish. That he was being responsible, that he had tried to take the bus to part of the stuff that he has to do for that. And he just wanted to let him know if he could send him more money. Well, it sent, and it didn't return or anything. And so he thought, well, that's good. And then that was it. And so that's as far as I've gotten in the story. So I'll read some more of the story. And then when I do my next video, and I'm not quite sure what my next video is going to be yet. I haven't come up with a plan. But I will tell you a little bit more. And I'll refrain from reading beyond this point so that I can wait and read a few days ahead of time so that I won't have so much forgotten. The problem is that I've read this book weeks ago, and then I stop with it because other stuff happens, and then I forget the darn thing, and I didn't want to go back and read all these chapters, and I'm only giving you like the gist of it. I don't know how many chapters I've read, but I'm like probably 20 some odd. No, I can't say 20 some odd. Shucks, I don't even know, and I can't look because it's on my telephone. So that's it. So I just want to say I hope you all like this video. If you don't even want to watch this last half, then you can cut it off when I showed the picture of the items being done, and you wouldn't have to waste all your time. So I hope you all like this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.